All right, let's turn our attention now to the very important topic of saving our work. So far, we've been opening a data file, um, playing around with it, and not saving it, so that when we open that data file again, any work we've done is not visible because we just haven't saved it. Okay? SeaDAS will not modify the file that you downloaded and began working on. Instead, you're going to save your work into a separate file space, really, um, that you can then maintain by making modifications, saving your work, picking up where you left off in later sessions, and so on. The first thing to take note of, though, is that when I open a file in the File Manager here, the icon beside it in the File Manager is this little stack icon, I guess a disk file icon of some sort. But it will change shortly when I, for example, open a band and let's say add some contours. So I'm going to say, I guess from 1 to 11, I'm going to set, I don't know, 5 contour levels. Okay. So there they are. Okay, so I can zoom in on those. And notice now that this icon for your file has changed color. Hopefully you can see that it's now red, colored red. That kind of is an indicator that it's dirty, that we have modified this file and that it has not been saved yet. Well, how has it been modified? If we go to the Layer Manager, what we see is a whole bunch of layers in the vector data, point and line data, that are for each contour. I can check them off and they will vanish from view. I can bring them back one at a time. Okay. And so we have introduced new data to our working environment in the form of these contour layers. Okay. So what we need to do, of course, is save our data, and that's simply done from the File menu with the Save As button. So when we do a Save As, we get this dialog box, which will it simply warns you that you're going to convert this to something called the Beam DIMAP format. Beam is actually the software that presents the user interface of SeaDAS. DIMAP is an old medical format that they use for historical, if not hysterical reasons. And so it's going to store it in its own format. So I click yes, and I surf to some directory. I'm going to, I think I already have saved it once here, so when I click save, it's going to warn me I'm going to overwrite it. You won't see that. Don't worry about that. I'm going to just overwrite that. The point is that it saved it. Let's go back to our save as a dim file, .dim. That goes to that DIMAP format. Okay, and you should use that extension. SeaDAS is going to assume it. Okay, now this is the a 2020 2019-10 file. I want to go to my file browser here, and I'm going to make my way to that directory. And what I want to point out, which I will do with a little bit larger font, is that we created just now, let's see, just now, here's the .dim file I saved to. What SeaDAS did in addition was create a .data folder associated with that name. You're not going to manipulate the .data folder or its contents. That's simply where SeaDAS goes to get the band information that you've saved, the layers and so on that you've saved. Okay, so if I turn that down, I'll see it's full of all sorts of stuff. Okay, but we're not going to manipulate that or look at that directly. We're going to always operate with the dim file. Okay? So, having done that, I can, in fact, quit, and I can, let's see, I can rerun it there. And I can go back to my open menu. Now, instead of opening the data file, I'm going to make my way to where I stored that dim file, okay, which is this file here, created on April 1st, and no fooling. I'm going to open that dim file. I'm going to open my raster, and sure enough, the contours are still there. My icon is in a state that indicates I'm up to date. I haven't made any changes to what I just opened since I've opened it that require me to save again. But you can now see that the workflow is going to be that I'll open a dim file that I was working on, do some more analysis and work, and whenever I see that little icon turn red, I will do a save. Okay, that simply freshens up the information that it's saved. Okay, so if I were to, well, I'll stop there. It's very simple. Keeps it kind of simple. That the workflow is that you're going to operate on this dim file, and the fact is, if you know that the data you just downloaded, you're going to do some work on, the first thing you could do after opening it is simply save it as a dim file, then start doing your work and continuously performing a save operation to update what you've saved. And that kind of leaves behind, if you will, the file that you downloaded. It gets transferred in a usable form into the .data directory that's created alongside the .dim file, and you can work from there. Okay, this becomes important, especially too when you start working on multiple files, where you might have one file here and another one listed in the file manager. Some of its windows are open. You do things. You just kind of keep an eye on these file icons to see if they indicate that you're not up to date with having saved your work. Hopefully that was clear. We'll move on to some new topic in the next video.